Hello, this is Ryan Riccitelli with asnews.net, and today we have Eric Hertsens from the Cabarete, Dominican Republic. He's the guy behind EH Kites, and he's also one of the early pioneers of the Dominican Republic. So, Eric, why don't you say hello to everyone and give us a little bit about your background?
Hi, everybody. I'm not too comfortable with the interviews, but I'll do my best. Well, who am I? Well, I come from Belgium, Antwerp, Belgium, and started windsurfing when I was about 17 years old. Got really hooked, the bug got me, and soon I started looking for wind, so spun the globe around, found a windward island place, so we decided to come to the Dominican Republic with a friend of mine. By the time I was in early 20s. We got here, it was windy, but it was poor too, so I got basically robbed, all my money stolen, my clothes, and the airplane company I came with, they went bankrupt. So as a young Belgian speaking Flemish, I ended up in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. So we survived a little bit, found my first job, started working, windsurfing instructor, scuba diving, and from there on, everything developed. I started making custom boards, just to make ends meet, and sail repair. Then from there I went into skydiving, really heavy, into the parachuting. I had a friend that was making parachutes, and everything developed, and I always made my own gear. And one day I met a friend of mine who had a piece of software that you could design kites with. That's the start of EH kiteboarding. Within a month we had Liquid Force and then Best Kiteboarding and a whole bunch of other customers as manufacturers that were interested in our skills. We made hundreds of prototypes, and just, we had unlimited funds. We had Best and Liquid Force paying the bill, so we went for it, and that's where all our experience comes from. Years and years of making prototypes, and now the whole show starts all over again with the bow kite. And, yeah.
Well, and you've obviously live in a very windy spot. Cabarete has been put on the map, and you've watched a lot of the evolution of Cabarete and to growing into what it is. So obviously it's a great place to test kites. Who are some of the people behind testing your kites and the pro riders riding your kites?
Well, basically it's I'm hanging around at Kite Club, which is kind of a little club where all the locals hang out and all the people that live in Cabarete and all the good guys. And these are my biggest critics too. They see me come up with something new. They all want to try it. They all want to test it. I listen to them. I hand the kite to tourists. Let them try them. I have a bunch of professionals like school owners, and they give me a straight out feedback. Basically, this is a piece of shit or it's really good. And I listen to them. I'm one of the biggest testers too. I go on the water, I feel if this is going to work or not. So I can, put in balance what the others say, because it's very difficult to get from a professional or from a very hot Dominican rider a clean feedback. Either they want to get a kite for free or they never give you a straight answer. So it's very important for me to do it myself, to go ride myself and to feel the kites for myself.
I met you on the beach, years ago, and through the time that I've known you, you've always put a lot of time on the water, and I've watched a lot of the EH Kites, kind of cycle out of the Dominican Republic. And who is like the intended market for your kites? Like who do you make a kite for? What type of rider?
Basically, the advanced rider, the ones that already know how to ride and that have experience, because these are the people that can feel the difference, because we do it's a lot of detailing work. Most kites, they work. Now, what we do is I try to make a kite that lasts a long time, that is powerful, that's controllable, and for the beginner, he doesn't really feel any kite for him works. They're just getting pulled around. But the advanced rider can really feel the difference, and most of my customers are repeat customers. If they've been with me from the beginning with the boards, I have people send boards back that I built 4 years ago to get repainted. They just don't want to let go of them, With the kites, eventually they were, with a lot of use, they wear out, and then they buy new ones. But the boards, we keep on repainting them.
Well, and you also have Bruno, pretty close to you, and what influence has that been on EH Kites?
Well, not that much, but on the other hand, a lot too. Years ago, I met Bruno because he was setting up his computer. He just moved to the Dominican Republic. He was setting up his computer network, and I was one of the only guys around that could help him with that. At that time, I was just, I was writing Nash. And I met him. I went to his place. I helped him set up his network, all the hardware stuff. I had no interest in designing kites at that time because they were readily available. They were good, and I could just buy one. It was easy. But at one point, they started to go with smaller and smaller leading edges, and my weight was a problem. I was starting to fold all the kites. So that's at the first opportunity I got when I met this guy that had the software. I realized that we could make them ourselves, and we started off. And immediately we started to make kites that would work for me too, because I'm a heavy guy. I'm over 100 kilos, it's 240 pounds. So if I jump, and I like to sail very powered up, when I jump a normal kite, I just fold it in half. So, which is a good testing too, because when I put a session on a kite, and if it stays in one piece, then nobody else is going to break it,
Obviously, that's what I was trying to get at. Like, I've seen you on the beach for the last 5 years. You're very active on the water, and, you fly and ride all your prototypes. And one thing I can say is I have seen you jump really big. I've ridden some of the kites that you make, and they are, very quality kites. And what are, like, some of the common misconceptions that people might have, being that EH is a smaller brand, positioned next to some of the bigger brands?
Well, for most people, is their fear is, since it's a small company and, you don't see them all over the place, they worry about spare parts and, the common stuff. Where am I going to get a bladder? Is there warranty? All that stuff. But all these problems have now been solved. We slowly grow. Our network is growing. We're pretty much represented all over the globe. Just a couple of places where we can't, but we can, these places we can ship direct. Nowadays FedEx can deliver anywhere in the world within a week. So by the next weekend the guy can have his spare bladder or whatever. We're now setting up. We have a small shipping company that we are setting up in China, so we can ship anything direct from China to whatever customer. So if there's an area where there is no customers, we can get them the gear they want. Within a week's time. So
let's talk a little bit about the 2006 gear line. Obviously, you have some new product on the that's coming out, or that's already out, as a matter of fact. So why don't you take us through your line?
Everybody, it's well known because on my website. I'm very vocal about what everything I do, and you can easily follow where my mind is. In the beginning, I've been riding pulleys my whole life. But I use them in a positive way to lessen the pressure on the bar. Now, on the new bow-type kites that are out there, some of the pulley systems are negative, meaning that you're going to pull twice as hard, but you're going to release twice as much line to allow the kites to pivot open. So my biggest negative thing there was I replace pulleys all the time. I know how they handle with the sand and the water, and it cost me $100 every time I need to replace my pulley. So I couldn't see how my customers was going to like that. Then the bridles, I always wrote it off as a hype thing, totally forget this, to my people here, I said, forget it, man. This is all hype, marketing, blah, blah, blah. So my friends in all over the world, they started pushing me. I was getting reports from Hawaii how good bows were in the surf. They could depower it. They were complaining about bar pressure or not enough bar pressure and, relaunch problems. But they said that doesn't matter. We can ride a wave on the board with the kite depowered. It opens up a whole new sport for them. So for months they were pushing me, and these are good friends and people I really respect. So one moment I caved in and said, okay, well, let's go for it. I just pulled all the plugs, started drawing up the first prototypes, send them out to China. And this is a long, tedious process. You use a whole bunch of software like 3D. You make a 3D model, then you make the 2D patterns. You need to nest them. Nesting is when you place all the fabric in the right direction so it can get cut by a plotter. Then you get samples made. The files go to China. The samples come back with FedEx. So for 3-4 months, we were just testing and trying. And in the beginning, very discouraging because I was trying to go the same way the others were going. And at one point, I said, stop it. I need to talk to Bruno because I'm going to have to use some of his patents, like the concave trailing edge. I'm going to have to use some of his bridle system. So while I was thinking about that, I get an email on my screen from Bruno saying, hey, what's going on? So we work it out, and I get my license to use that technology. And from there on, everything changed dramatically. So I was not limited anymore, trying to stay out of the patent. And I had my investment protected because I have the license. I could eventually sell that technology. And my distributors were protected from any trouble down the line. So all stops were pulled. We started putting the money we needed to put into it. I think I have like 30 different bows in my locker on the beach. All different shapes, all different sizes. And at one point we hit a model that we really liked. Most people really liked. And we developed that further and further. And we ended up with a kite that has no bar pressure, that has no pulleys, and that uses a regular bar with 30 to 40 centimeter deep power, depending how you want to ride. Now, I've already had people that just put their regular bar on it and go kite with it. We managed to get on 40 centimeters deep power. You get instant deep power when you let go of the bar, and as you pull on the bar, you gradually increase the power of the kite. But gradual, it's not all or nothing. The more you bring it down, the faster you're going to go.
Wow! So you've literally created a kite that you can fly on, basically a traditional bar.
You could fly it on a traditional bar. Let's say if you're not looking for instant deep power, what I mean by instant deep power is when you let go of the bar, the kite is dead. That means the kite does not pull anymore. Then you need a 40 cm. That means with the strap up, the strap completely extended, 40 centimeter deep power gives you instantaneous 100% deep power. Now, if you bring that down to 30%, you have 10% left in the kite, which is basically nothing. But for the freestyle people, it's important that the kite doesn't deep power completely. They don't want it to fall out of the sky. They want to keep it flying, So what I did is I adjusted the whole system that when you let go of the bar, or let's say you grab the front lines by the deep power strap, that the kite hangs in the air like a balloon. If you wait long enough, it will just drift to one side and go into the water. But you can hold a kite, let's say the 14 meter, you can hold it by the strap with an extended arm in 30 knots, like a balloon. It won't, it doesn't pull. And the surfers are really crazy about this. They already said, hey man, make a handle that I can put on there. They can just grab the kite and ride the wave, and then when I need it, release it up and repower up to go catch the next wave.
What do you call the kite that you're talking about?
We call it the Ripper.
The Ripper.
Yeah, this is something I just invented in 5 minutes and gave it a name. We didn't look too far, and this is we like what we do, and we try to make the best kite that I can possibly can at this point in time, and that's basically it. The rest, the whole business side of it is. It is important, but not that important. I could stop tomorrow and life would go on. It's not something puts the food on my table. It is truly a hobby.
Now, what range does the kite come in?
Well, we have them 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, and depending your weight, the kites can be flown from 13 to 30 knots. Over 30 knots, I consider extreme winds. And the people that kite in those conditions are most of the time experts. So for all safety and security reasons, we rate the kites up to 30, 35 knots. And after that, you basically, those people, they have to choose for themselves. the kites go, let's say I'm 110 kilos, which is about 240 pounds. I can take a 14 and kite from 12, 13 to 30 knots, no problem. If I can do the same from 15 knots to 30 knots on a 12. You know, I would need 20 knots if I want to go on a 10. Something, you know, you follow me? The range is so big that it's really hard to put an exact range on them because the kites, first of all, they're so new. We got some, feedback from Cabarete, but it's so different. Some people like lots of power when they jump. Other people don't want power, but you can still kite comfortably. If you really want to go jump high, I can take out the 12 meter in 30 knots, ride it on the last 10% of the kite, and power it completely up once I'm in the air. You get massive air. You get enormous air. But not everybody wants to ride like that. And I made the kite so you can use, the whole range is usable. It's not all or nothing. You can just set the trim strap to bring the bar within your comfort zone. And that's what it is. You're riding with the same comfort as you're going to be riding in the 12 or in the 30 knots. It's the same. The bar pressure is the same. It's like a gas pedal in a car. You know, when you press the pedal, it doesn't get harder at the bottom. You know, it's the same. So we managed to get a gradual, consistent bar pressure through the whole range of the kite.
Well, what have you done with the sea kite design?
Well, the sea kite, nothing. All my energy and money. The thing is, I had my 2006 Waveliner kites. I just finished them off. Yeah, that was done by September 2005. The kites were ready, and I was ready to go in production. And then the whole, the pressure was on the bow for the bow design. So my whole all the financial part and the focus went 100% on the bow kite. So now, what do I do with the wave kite for next year? The kite's really good, so I'm planning on doing is keeping the wave kite in production until the demand dries up, and keep the parts in stock just to give service to my customers. But I think in the long run, it's going to be all supported leading edge. There is no way back now. All the other brands, I'm sure they're working hard to improve on their designs. And I think very soon, within months, you will see kites out there that people won't, they won't buy sea kites anymore. That's my 2 cents in the long run, because they're so much safer. You'll have some hardcore group that will stay on the regular, C-shaped kites because they like the raw power of it and the little bit adrenaline that comes with it. But the general public and most people that I talk to, they want safety more than performance. And our Ripper now, we balance with the safety. You have best of both worlds, and it's just the beginning. This is far from over, man. This is like a baby starting to walk. I foresee that in the next 2 years that C-shapes, they won't sell them anymore. You will have an enormous second-hand market, and that will, still fuel the people that are looking for sea kites. But brand new sea kites, it's going to be a hard sell after, the second generation bow. It's going to be very hard sell. I think it will fade out with time. It will all be bridles.
Well, we got to wrap it up, but I want to give you a chance to, tell our listeners where we can learn more information about EH. And
our website, we just redid the whole thing last night, so it's cabareteairforce.com or ehkiteboarding.com. It will automatically guide you to our Cabarete Air Force site. And there you can basically follow, it's like there's some mini blogs on what I do. If I come up with something new the next day, I write a little blurb, put it online. I get lots of positive and negative critique. But, to me, all news is good news. So I keep my people, people I work with, all up to date through that website. So, the best place to go.
So, and also, too, I want to give you a chance to say hello to your friends or whoever you want to say hello to.
Hello, world. Lots of wind.
And come to Cabarete, and when you do stop into Cabarete, you can go downtown, and you guys have a nice shop downtown.
Had a little space there. Put a store there. It's not a big store, but it's full of kites, though.
Well, Eric, thanks again for coming on and giving us some insight, and hopefully we can get you on the show again soon.
All right, man.
Hello, this is Ryan Riccitelli with ASNews.net, and today I have Dr. Henry Rebbeck from Flexifoil on the line. He's the guy who engineers and designs the Flexifoil Kites, and why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and your background, Henry?
Yeah, hi there, Ryan. Yeah, cool. My name's Henry Rebbeck, as you said. I basically got into the working for Flexifoil about 5 years ago after I'd finished my PhD. I kind of went to Cambridge University where I studied aeronautics and then carried on to the PhD in aeronautics. So, the whole time I was doing that, we were obviously investigating lots about airflow, and I did some fairly kind of interesting research on that. But my passion for the whole time I was doing that was into outdoor sports and anything to do with the wind. So when I was a kid, I built model aircraft, anything that flew, that's what I was into. And then as I grew up, I was really into windsurfing when I was younger, and travelled a lot, windsurfing as much as I could. And then when kite surfing came along, obviously I saw the guys on Maui, and that kind of excitement, was pretty inspiring for me. And during that time, I'd been paragliding and flying gliders and into all that. So anything in the air was kind of what I was into. So when I approached Flexifoil to talk about working for them, it was kind of like the dream job. I'd spent 7 years studying aeronautics. I'd loved flying kites, loved windsurfing, all the outdoors kind of paragliding sports, and it just fitted me perfectly. So that's how I kind of got involved with Flexifoil. They're a company based very near Cambridge, so it's near the university I went to, and we had some contacts through the university that got me the job. And one of the great things for me was just being able to do a job that applied my kind of some of the more sort of theoretical research that I'd done into a much more practical form. And actually, the trial and error type side of kite design was great fun, and getting out and actually doing the sport is just a lot more exciting than sitting on a desk all day. So that's how I kind of ended up in the great job that I'm doing now. For 5 years, and in that time we pretty much started doing the sort of first of the water kites, working very closely with Jason Furness to start with, who was at that stage one of the leading kiteboarders of the time, and he's still very much involved in the design process. And we just worked like crazy for the last 5 years to get Flexifoil to where it is now.
I understand that Flexifoil uses Cambridge's wind tunnel to test the aerodynamics of the kites, before you build them full scale. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually that's quite interesting. I came from that background during my university time. I spent a lot of time in wind tunnels, crawling around them and testing all sorts of various ordnance. When I did my first degree, one of the projects I did was testing paraglider aerofoils in wind tunnels. So I got that experience, and once I joined Flexifoil, I still had all the contacts at the university and who were able to get me access to the tunnel. So what we were able to do is use those contacts and being able to go down to the university and actually test kite aerofoils out. So what we tend to do, although we have tested not full kites in the wind tunnels, which has been very useful for understanding flow structures. What we found is more useful actually is breaking the kite down into sort of various components and studying things like the actual aerofoils themselves. So this is the profile of the kite, as people call it. And we built various models, and we can actually look at using kind of smoke in the tunnel to see how the smoke flows over the aerofoil, and you can see various points of what's happening to the actual flow itself, which for a tube kite, it's kind of, the aerofoils are quite unusual in that you've got this very fat front tube, which gives you a very blunt nose, and then quite a thin profile when you've got just a single skin. And so the behaviour of the flow on the underside of the wing is really interesting, because it breaks away as it flows around the front of the tube, then break away, and then reattach somewhere along the bottom surface of the airfoil. And for layman's terms, I'm just trying to think, it means that the airfoil kind of changes shape. The sort of shape that the air sees changes depending on how it's used. So there was quite a lot of new stuff there that hadn't been researched before, and we were able to go and look at that and then apply those kind of findings back to our kite design, which gives us kind of a real good insight into what's really happening. You know, often when you design a kite and you go and fly it, what actually is happening is such a complicated process. There's so many things interacting that you're never really sure what's caused what. And so breaking it down, sticking it in a wind tunnel and just looking at various individual components, you can really analyse the effect of aerofoil changes on its own rather than the kind of combined effect. So that's kind of one area that really has been useful for us in terms of what aerofoils we use in our kites. We have done full shape kites in the wind tunnel as well. They're so complicated, there's so much going on that often you can get lost if you're not careful. So we've kind of gone back to breaking the problem down into smaller components.
Well, and you like to test kites in Cape Town and South Africa, and why is that?
Cape Town is just a great spot. It's obviously it's got very consistent wind. It's also we're based in the UK, so we want to find somewhere during our winter that we can go and find somewhere that's warm and windy. And Cape Town is perfect for that. It's also been very useful to one of the key things for us, and I think a lot of the designers will say that one of the most important things to design a good kite is to have good riders, because you need your riders to give you the feedback on the kites. Now, I can go out and I ride the kite, but unless I get some kind of feedback from the other guys as to how that kite's performing, I don't have the full picture. So going to Cape Town, where Aaron Hadlow is based all winter, Jason Furness is based down there, the rest of the Flexifoil R&D come down as well. And so we've got 5 or 6 of us there that are continually out testing kites on a daily basis, and just having those strong conditions that you get in Cape Town really punish the kites as well. One of the problems with Cape Town itself is it tends to be quite gusty, the conditions, because it's kind of an offshore wind. It's basically a wind that flows over the land, so it gets quite turbulent. And what's great is that we found various spots that's kind of within a reasonable close drive that you can go and find smooth winds to get the consistent conditions. So we can test in all conditions depending on where we go, which is great. And the more hands on the water is what really makes a big difference to how good the kites turn out.
Well, we also, we found out that Flexifoil uses a proprietary software, to design the kites, and there's rumor that you guys have some supercomputer there to help you with your designs. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, the software side of things, we've written our own software, which is one of the things that we've put a huge amount of effort into over the last 5 years. Before I joined Flexi, that we were using fairly basic software, and I think a lot of the other manufacturers now use just a sort of a stock software, whereas we really didn't want to be limited by what our software can do. So we designed our own package, and it's just really helps speed up the design process in terms of, the first stage is obviously actually physically making the kite, irrespective of what shape it is. So it helps us to go very quickly from an idea to getting the drawings done to make prototypes. And then there's a second stage to the whole process now, which is where we look like some of the work I'd used from my degree and from my PhD to actually do some modelling of kites and understanding how various shapes affect the flight characteristics of the kite. So we can do some quite interesting modelling to predict certain behaviours of the kite. The next stage that we're just working on at the moment is actually going out and measuring the forces that affect the kite in flight. So we really need to validate kind of our ideas. So at the moment, there's certain parameters in the kite design that are incredibly sensitive to where the kite flies. And the tow point is the classic example. For you guys out there, it's the point where you attach the flying lines to your kite. If you move that by a few centimetres, you can make a big difference to the way the kite feels and flies. So what we've really tried to do is analyse what shapes affect that tow point position and how we can predict where the correct tow point will be. And it's always, when we started off doing the kites, we'd have to build a lot of prototypes to vary the tow point and find the correct one for the different kites. And as you change the aspect ratio, you change the size, you change the shape of the kite, and suddenly we'd throw out those points. So we'd spend a lot of time and a lot of prototypes finding that correct toe point. Whereas now we've got a much better handle on deciding to go. There's various other bits and pieces that go on into that, which we've done a lot. We work with a guy that's a specialist in tensile structures, so in roofing structures you see like airport buildings and roofs, fabric structures, and we've used him to come in and help us on the structural analysis of our kites, so we can work out where our kind of panel cut lines go, so where you go from one fabric to the next, exactly how we want to sew it, where we want these construction lines to go. So that's made a bit of difference. And I mean, now the whole kite process is so much more automated that we can get more repeatability in our results. So that's kind of where we get on. There is another stage of modelling that we have done some work on in the past of doing kind of what they call CFD, which is computational fluid dynamics. However, we've had limited results, limited success with that. I'd say it's something that a lot of guys have tried in sort of bigger industries, but it doesn't work so well for what we're doing. So we've stayed away from that for now.
Well, like 7 to 10 years ago, Flexi launched the Nexus, which was a flat kite, and there's a lot of controversy. Is Bruno the first designer of this type of kite design, or is Flexifoil?
I mean, I think, there's so much stuff that's talked about this, and I mean, I don't know the true history. Flexifoil obviously came out with the Nexus long before Bruno was working on his flat kites, but the Nexus is, a different version. It's a different kite to the bow kite, and Bruno's kites are characterised more by the kind of large amounts of sweepback in the kite rather than the actual flat, or the combination of a flat kite with the wingtips that are swept back, which gives a couple of performance characteristics. But the Nexus wasn't a swept back kite; it was just a flat kite. I mean, I don't really want to go into too much who came in, whether which designer came first. I think so many people have been working on these kind of ideas for a long time. There was a seismic kite, before I'd even started seeing a kite that was a flat kite. And I think that the point is, what Bruno's done a very good job of is making a kite that has lots of de-powering, and that's the key thing, whether it's flat, curved, or hooped.
Well, and the Nexus never really took off, and why didn't Flexifoil further develop this type of kite, and why did it go back to like a pure foil design?
Yeah, I mean, the Nexus was actually a really interesting kite. It wasn't. I didn't design the Nexus. It was designed by Andy Preston, who's an amazing guy who was involved at Flexi before I was there. And we kind of, once we released the Nexus, it wasn't really the right kite at that time. The foot was actually pretty good, but the landing was pretty atrocious. So it took a long time for us to then go back and go towards the kites. On a C-shaped kite, you get extremely good handling.
So why don't you give us a little information about Flexifoil's 06 kite line and tell us a little bit about each kite?
Okay, well, I mean, obviously Flexifoil, one of the great things about Flexi is we don't just do the water kites, we do land kites, snow kites, we do any kite you can imagine, and that's kind of one of the fun things from our point of view, is that we get to do a bit of everything. But obviously your listeners are probably more interested in the water kites, so I'll go into those kites. For 2006, the first kind of focus for us was to build a kite that really does justice to the fact that we've got the 2-time world champion riding our kites. So working with Aaron Hadlow, who is just the most ridiculous rider, every time I go and ride with him, I'm absolutely staggered by how good he is. And he really has been this kind of one of the pushing focuses for our fusion kite. So what we wanted to do is make a kite that he can go and use, ride in the World Championships and really perform to the highest level, but at the same time we wanted to make it accessible so that any rider can really go and actually use that kite. So that was kind of the key feature for it. The interesting thing obviously is the way the kite market has gone and the way people's riding styles has changed over the last few years, that we kind of are getting these two areas that people are interested in riding. So you've got the freestyle kind of wake style and you skill tricks that Aaron and those guys are doing that need quite a powerful kite that's very easy to turn and with a really kind of direct feel. And it's one of the things that we were really keen on working, is having that very direct feel. So when you pull the bar, when you make a small movement the kite reacts straight away, and you know where that kite is in the sky. And that's what the Fusion's all about, making, you know, a powerful kite with lots of pop that really can generate the speed and power for the new tricks, but at the same time, you know, equipping it with the new, you know, you can ride in 4 lines like Aaron rides it, or you ride it with 5 lines, and you've got the added range that you get from having the 5 lines. So that's where the Fusion's come from, and it's we were very happy with the way it ended up. Obviously, the next kite that's just about to be released in the next kind of month or so is the kite called the Ion, which is, it's not a bow kite, but it is a flatter kite. And what we really wanted to do is we looked very carefully at what was going on with the Cabarete releasing the crossbow, and then a whole range of kind of similar kites. Obviously, Bruno had given us the designs for those kites a while back, and we've been flying them, but they had some really great points about them. And I'm still, you know, I think one of the great things is the depower of the kite, and the fact that you can really turn that kite off. And so for people riding in gusty conditions, it's not suitable for the freestyle to kind of powered tricks, but it's, you know, for general cruising and a variety of conditions, it's great. But what we found is that it was so complicated. It was very heavy to steer. It had some kind of negative features about it that we weren't so keen on. And so what we aimed at was trying to make a kite that not only had the good depower that the bow style kites have, but also kept that kind of direct feel and, you know, easy use. So we went down the route of building kind of a hybrid kite it's flatter than a C-shaped kite, but still it's still got a reasonable amount of hoop to it. And what that means is we're able to not have pulleys on our bar. We have a very simple bar system. The rear lines connect directly to the trailing edge of the kite, so you've got that direct connection, which gives you a very direct feel. You don't have pulleys in the way, so you feel like you're operating a machine rather than actually feeling the kite, which was kind of really important to us. And so what we found is, you know, we can get a kite that by a simple bridle on the front of the kite to be able to move the toe points forward and backwards. You get the deep power out of the kite, but you've still got that direct connection. So it's actually not a kite that I ride the most, because it gives me a kite that it doesn't have the power and the natural aggressiveness that the Fusion has, but it has real easy use characteristics. You can go in any conditions, get deep power, get overpower, you can shoot the thing out. It's great for turning the thing off on a wave, but it still feels like a conventional kite, and it's still got the handling of a conventional kite, and it's just a great, easy kite to use. So that's kind of why we've gone down that route. Obviously, you know, other people have gone for the more bow-style kite, which is more on-off power, but we preferred this kind of, you know, this hybrid kite, as we've called it. So that's the kind of the 2 kites in the Flexifoil Kite body range for this year. And I think they pretty much cover everything that you need. And a lot of other people are trying, you know, all sorts of different kites, but we've kind of focused on just getting our core kites right.
A lot of people are very interested in the differences between a foil, a hybrid flat kite, and a traditional sea kite. And, like, do you see any of these designs becoming obsolete?
No, not really. I mean, I think it's kind of like horses for courses. It's like you need, depending on what you want to do with your kite, very much dictates what style of kite you'll have. If, you know, as I said, if you want to go and bust out the new latest wave style tricks, then you need a shaped kite that's going to give you that kind of pop and aggression. If you want to just go and wave ride, then a kite that you can depower, that's the key thing. So how you do that, whether it's flattening the kite or pulleys or bridles, that's up to you. You know, the designer's got various ways of increasing the depower, but you obviously that's going to dictate the sort of kite you have. And the foil kites, obviously, again, the environment you want to use it in. If I'm going snow kiting, and one of the, you know, the great things that I'm really lucky in my job is I get to go water kiting, snow kiting, land kiting. I do it all. And if you're going out into the mountains, you want a kite that you can kill, and you want a kite that you can put up on its ground, and suddenly then a foil kite comes into its own, because there's so much, you know, you can pack it right down and get away with it. And at the same time, we still make, you know, we're just bringing out a new blade, and the blade was a kite that, you know, was right up there at the beginning of kiteboarding 6-7 years ago, and it's just such a simple kite. And we're out in Australia this winter riding them again, and it was kind of a real throwback to the past, but it was so much fun. You just got 2 lines, simple kite, and you're out and you're boosting huge airs. And so it does depend on what you're trying to do with your kite. But realistically, for most riders who want a deep power that easy use, then you need a 4-line kite, and you need whether it's a kite or a C-shaped kite, depends on the sort of style of kite you're looking after.
Well, actually, what you were talking about the foils, I remember Lou Wayman and Elliot LeBeau taking out like 3.5 meter Flexifoils and jumping like 40-50 feet on the foils in Maui, and it was just ridiculous.
Yeah. Those kites used to get huge on them. I mean, that was actually kind of before I worked with Flexifoil, but you want to go and speak to Jason Furness, who's just just continually tells me about how big those guys used to go. But it's for speed and efficiency, a 4-kite's amazing. But one of the things that I think there's a big confusion about is this whole efficiency thing and what's the most efficient kite. And actually, when we're designing kites, efficiency isn't necessarily the most important factor. Where we're really looking now is the handling of the kite and the way the kite responds to people's inputs and the bar control. And actually, the performance of the kite, the kind of the lift to drag ratio, if you like, is not one of the necessary most important factors. It helps if you get up, then it helps you get upwind, and it helps you on various areas. But getting the balance between performance and handling is actually more important.
I want to thank you for your time today. I know that you're busy, and I know that it's probably about time for you to go kiteboarding over there.
Actually, it's just getting dark.
It's just getting dark, so there'll be no kiteboarding. But anyway, I wanted to give you a chance to give a shout out to your friends, and so.
Well, actually, I just want to say hi to everyone at Flexi, who's just been awesome to me over the last 5 years, and we're just going to keep it up. And thanks very much to all the guys over in the States. Pete Trow, who's currently in Maui, riding the islands, and sending me reports back every day saying how great it is. And I just wish I was there.
All right, man. Well, hopefully we can get you back on the show here in the upcoming future, and have a good time on your holiday.
All right. Thanks very much.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.